Okay, Sandy Daly here again with another of the tools that I used while I was still in that domestic violence relationship for the purpose of shifting who I was in the relationship. So I'm going to get right to the point because this could become a lengthy, a lengthy video. Um, One of the things that Mary said during that Mary Man and Morrissey, if this is the only video that you've ever watched of mine, all of them mention her name, I believe, because she is the one that I learned all this, well, a lot of this stuff from. So one of the things that she said that really caught my attention during the program I was watching on September 19th of 1999 was, where I place my attention, I am placing my intention. And what that means is whatever I have my attention on, my subconscious mind is going to look for more of. Okay? So if I have my attention on my boyfriend is an asshole, all I'm ever going to see is my boyfriend is an asshole. And that applies to everything. If I have my attention on all men are assholes, that's gonna be what I'm gonna experience, because your subconscious mind takes orders from you all day long. So if I'm and it does so by noticing what you have your attention on. So try. Have you ever noticed that when you're hungry, all you see is food? It's because you have your attention on, I'm hungry, I need something to eat. So all sorts of food show up. When I decided I wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle and that I wanted to get a Harley, all I saw were women on Harleys. I saw them everywhere and I hadn't noticed them before. I'm sorry, I have something poking me through my pant leg and I'm trying to get a hold of it. Okay, I think I got it. So when I decided I wanted to learn how to ride a motorcycle, all I saw was women on Harleys mainly, but women on motorcycles. I saw them everywhere I went, and I had never noticed them before. So while I stayed in that relationship with him, I paid attention to what I was paying attention to, and I noticed, like, even when he wasn't there, I a lot of times had my attention on what's going to happen when he gets home, and you can feel it when you're creating something in your imagination that's only a potential. This is what the definition of worry, by the way. My definition of worry is when we create something in our imagination that only exists in potentiality. It's only a potential problem, right? So when we focus on something in our imagination that could be a problem, it's only a potential problem. It doesn't have to be a problem. It's only a potential problem. And I used to do that all the time. When he wasn't home, I would be very focused on what's he going to be like when he gets home? What's he going to get mad at me for now? And we as victims do that because we've been trained. We've been trained to fear our abuser. And part of that is trying to anticipate what we're going to get in trouble for. I'm not even going to say any more than that. I don't think I need to. My point of this video is I want to really make it clear that when I have my attention on something, I'm telling my subconscious mind to notice more of it, to bring me more of that. So I have my attention on this thing I do not want. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand yes or no, or there or not there. It sees it. It understands the picture that you have in your mind. So if I have a picture in my mind of what I do not want, my subconscious doesn't know how to say, oh, that's what she doesn't want. Let's bring her what she does want. No, because my attention is only on what I don't want. Subconscious mind sees that and automatically goes to get more of it, looks out there for more of it. And it always finds it. Always, because that's what it does. That's how it functions. So I want to give you an example. I'm going to try to get through this story quickly, so I'll probably leave some stuff out because it's the where I place my attention is where I'm placing my intention part that I really want to make clear. So my husband, Rick, is a stilt entertainer. And what that means is he entertains on stilts. He dances on stilts. He knows how to entertain a crowd. He's amazing. The guy is amazing on his stilts. And in May of 2010, we received an email from the Fremont Street Experience in Las Vegas wanting to hire Rick. We want to pay you to come to Vegas and be Tall Elvis, because they had a Ultimate Elvis competition that was going to be going on in July 23rd and 24th of 2010. It was an Ultimate Elvis competition. They were going to have 23 Elvi there competing to become the best in the West or whatever. And there were several of these things going on around the country, and the winners of each one got to go to Memphis to be picked as the one. Okay, so the Fremont Street Experience director of operations, I think, had seen Rick on his stilts the previous December at the Fremont Street Experience. We had been there. We got permission for Rick to do his thing. And so this guy knew how awesome Rick was, and he knew the capability that he has to entertain a crowd. Okay, so he emailed Rick in May and said, we would like to hire you to come and do this. We want you to, because they were expecting thousands and thousands of people to be in the audience. So they wanted Rick to be like on the fringes. He even told Rick when we got there, now I stay away from the stage because I know what you do to a crowd, and we don't want you taking the attention away from the actual performers, which is what would have happened if he had been anywhere near the stage. People would have been watching Rick and not the stage. So he was there just to provide some additional entertainment for the people who were standing there in the heat, watching this competition. So Rick, we get the email in May, and Rick is like tickled. He's tickled. Oh my God, I get to go to Vegas and they're going to pay me to do what I love, and I'm so excited. So he has some costumes, but the man looks nothing like Elvis. He looks nothing like Elvis Presley. So he's never done Tall Elvis before because he doesn't look anything like Elvis. So he didn't have a costume. So he has a tuxedo. So he decided that he would wear his tuxedo pants, and we would throw some gold glitter on it because they're black, and call it good, and that he would just go rent a Elvis shirt, an Elvis type shirt. He needed the shirt, he needed the belt, he needed the wig, he needed the glasses and the sideburns. So he went all over the Phoenix metro area to every costume shop he could think of, except one, which I'll get to in a little bit. And they all said they only rent jumpsuits. Well, that's not going to do Rick any good because the jumpsuits are not made with an extra 2 feet added onto the legs. So it's not going to do him any good. And nobody would rent him a belt. So he's like, well, just let me have nope, you got to rent the whole costume to get the belt. So, so as time went on, he's getting a bit frustrated. Now, he has a sister who lives in Vegas, and she was looking in Vegas, which is Elvisville. You know, she's looking in Vegas. She can't find anything either. So time goes on, and he's, he didn't even really start trying to do the costume because he thought it was going to be easy. So he didn't start until, like end of June looking for the costume. So it's getting close to the time where we have to drive up to Vegas. And he still doesn't, he found a shirt in the back of his closet that would do. And so he's like, okay, as a last resort, I have the pants, I have this shirt, it's shiny, it'll do in a pinch. But he needed the belt because he had recently lost weight, and his tuxedo pants had elastic in the waistband, and Elvis did not wear suspenders, and Rick was not willing to wear suspenders to keep his pants up when he was working to be Elvis, because Elvis would never wear suspenders. There's no way in hell. So Rick is like, I'm not doing suspenders. So what he needed, he was going to wear a regular belt around the top of his tux pants, and then he was going to fold the top of the pants over and put the wide, because Elvis wore those wide belts. He was going to put that wide Elvis belt over the top to keep his pants from falling down. This is pretty important. He's going to be 8 feet tall. He really needs his pants to stay up. So we're getting closer, and he's not finding anything, and nobody will rent him just the belt, and they won't even sell him the belt. And Diane is not finding anything in Vegas, and it's the weirdest thing, because you would think she's in Vegas. You would think that you would be able to find an Elvis belt anywhere in Vegas. That is not the case. So the day before, we were getting ready to leave, and it was 5 minutes to 6. And Rick says, "Oh my God, I never went to my favorite costume shop in the Valley. I never went there." And it was the one that he always used when we lived in Scottsdale. This place was right around the corner from us, and it was the one that he always rented his top hats and tuxedo jackets from, always. But he hadn't gone there for some reason. Who knows why? And so here it is, 5 minutes to 6. We look up the number real quick, and he calls him, and he says, "I'm looking for an Elvis belt. Do you have one? And I would like to rent one." And they said, "Yeah, we have one. I'll sell it to you for $25." And Rick is like, "Oh, goody." He's all tickled. It'll take me 30 minutes to get there. What time do you close? "Oh, we close at 6. "Oh, well, would you be willing to wait?" No, they were not willing to wait. "Well, what time do you open tomorrow?" 10 o'clock. Well, we had to leave at 7 in the morning to drive to Vegas. So it wasn't going to work out. And Rick was frustrated. And this is a man who does not get frustrated with himself, but holy crap, he beat the shit out of himself all night long that night, because he could have gone to that place at any time. May, June, July, at any time he could have gone to that particular costume shop, and he had just never even crossed his mind. He went to every costume shop in the Valley except that one. So there he was all night long. He was awake all night kicking himself, just mad at himself. And he got up in the morning still mad at himself. And it was 7 o'clock. We were headed out, and he didn't have, and so he woke up with the thought, I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I need a belt, and I don't have a belt. And it was like a mantra. I don't have a belt. That was where his attention was. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. My pants are going to fall down. I'm going to make an ass out of myself, and people are going to see my ass, by the way, at the same time. I don't have a belt. I need a belt. I'm so stupid. I should have called that place, and now I don't have a belt because I was too stupid, and I didn't. And he was really, really torturing himself, really causing his own suffering. So we were at the gas station and I was driving, and we were putting gas in the car, and he went in to get a soda or something, and we had been planning on going to Walmart here and getting a case of water, because bottled water is expensive in Vegas, so we were just going to take some with us. So he comes back out to the car, and he's getting ready to get in the car, and he's standing on the other side of the car just cussing himself out, just cussing himself out. And I don't want to sit in that energy for a 6-hour drive listening to that shit, because especially since it's so not like him to do that. So I looked across the top of the car and I said to him, honey, there's Walmart in Vegas. They have Walmarts there. I know they do. Vegas is Elvisville. Who's to say that let's go to Vegas and get our water there instead of buying it here? Because who's to say, since we're going to be in Elvisville, that we won't find an Elvis belt the second we walk into the Walmart? And he's like, remember, one of the previous videos was about the open moment. This was an open moment for him. He decided, I'm willing to believe that, because he could see that I believed in the possibility. So he went ahead and said, and because he didn't want to feel all angry at himself either. So he said, okay, I'll believe in the possibility. I don't know if it's really true, if it could really happen, but I can see that you believe it. I'm willing to believe in your belief. So I'm going to mellow out. So we had a nice drive. So that's what he did. And he was pretty good at it. We had a nice drive all the way to Vegas. We get to Vegas. We get to the hotel, and we go in and we get our room all situated. And I asked the lady behind the counter, where's the nearest Walmart? And she said, just like this, she said, oh, it's far. And I could see my husband, bam, blinders on. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. And all I can see is I don't have a belt. Where I place my attention, I'm placing my intention. So he's telling his subconscious mind that he can't see a belt anywhere. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. And the subconscious mind says, okay, you don't have a belt. I'm going to make sure that you don't have a belt, because you're telling me, because that's where your attention is, that you don't want to have a belt. I'm watching him do this. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a, and so she's like, oh, it's far. And I said, how far is far? And she goes, oh, like 30 minutes. I was like, 30 minutes is not that far. We just drove for 6 hours. We can do 30 minutes. So she says, I said, give me the directions, because we need to go to Walmart. And so give me the directions. And she said, okay, you go out the parking lot and you make a right. And then at the first light, you make a left on Charleston Boulevard, and you take Charleston. And she did it just like that, all the way down to Nellis Boulevard. Go all the way down Charleston to Nellis Boulevard, and make a left, and the Walmart will be right there on your right. And I'm like, and I was laughing. Rick is like, I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I hate myself. I hate myself. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. And I was like, there was no question in my mind that he was going to have a belt, or that it would work out somehow. So we went to the room. We dropped off our stuff. We're on our way back out to the car. And in the middle of the parking lot, he starts cussing at himself again. And it's bad. And again, I'm not willing to sit in the car with that kind of, I don't want to be in that atmosphere, because it's not like him to do that. And I don't have to. I don't have to. You don't get to have that attitude in my car. When the whole aim of this weekend is to have a good time. So I said, honey, we're in Las Vegas, which is Elvisville. Who's to say that as we're going all all the way down Charleston Boulevard, we won't see the one costume shop that Diane missed or something. Who's to say? Are you really that willing to not have a belt that you're not even willing to look for the possibilities? And he's like, okay, fine. Okay. All right. I hear you. There is a possibility. So we get in the car, we get onto Charleston, and we're headed down Charleston. And he's right off the bat, he sees a thrift store, and he loves thrift stores. And so he's like, ding, we could stop there. If we don't find anything, we could stop there on our way back, and maybe they'll have something in there, because after all, we are in Elvisville. So he's standing in the open moment. He's willing to believe in the possibility that he will have a belt. So we're driving down, and I see a Walmart on the right. Well, I had never seen one of those little neighborhood market stores. I didn't realize it wasn't a full-size Walmart, but that's what I saw. I said, look, honey, there's a Walmart right there on the right. And so we might not have to go all the way down Charleston. Let's just go to this Walmart right here. And we wouldn't have found a belt there because they don't have stuff like that in those neighborhood markets. And it's a good thing that we didn't stop there. And the reason we didn't stop there was because 3 lanes of traffic wouldn't let me over. I had been planning on turning left, so I was in the left lane. So 3 lanes of traffic would not let me over to turn right into this parking lot. So I'm like, fine, you idiot drivers. I know how to flip a U-ey. I'm going to go to this light right up here, and I'm going to flip a U-ey, and I'll come back to the Walmart. So listen to me, people. The universe knows what it's doing. There's so much more to this story than what I'm telling you. And there were so many different things that happened along this whole thing that I'm not including for the sake of time. But let me just say, the universe knows what it's doing. There's a reason why those idiot asshole drivers wouldn't let me over. Because God knows where the belt is. Okay, the universe knows where the belt is, and it knows that if I turn right there, I'm not going to get to where I need to be to see the place that has the belt. Okay, so I said, fine, you asshole drivers, I know how to flip a U-ey. I'm going to go up to this light, and I'm going to flip a U-ey, and I'll come back to the Walmart. So we're in the left turn lane, and I look over. And on that side of the street is a big, giant indoor swap meet. And I said, look, honey, an indoor swap meet. I bet there's a belt in there. And he started laughing. He goes, oh my God, you're probably right. I bet there is too. So I flipped my U-ey and I turned right. And I went into we parked and we went in. We walked in the doors. We turned left, with the intention of covering the whole entire building if we needed to find him a belt. Okay, so we turned left. We were going to start at the far back corner and work our way around. All right, we turned left, and what do we see in front of us? A whole thing of belts. A whole thing of belts. So we walked over, and there weren't any that would have worked. So we asked the lady, I told her what we were looking for. We need something to be used as an Elvis belt. Where would we look? And she said, oh, you're not going to find anything like that here. And Rick, bam, I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I hate that I don't have a belt. I hate myself because I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. My pants are going to fall down. I'm going to make a fool of myself, and on and on and on. He was pissed. But I know better than to do that. So she said, you're not going to find that here. And I said, whatever, you just want me to buy one of your belts, even though it's not going to work for us. So we headed toward the back corner, and he was way ahead of me. He was pissed. You know how people walk fast when they're pissed? So he was way ahead of me. He turned right at the back corner, and he was gone. Okay. So I get there to the corner. I turn right, and what do I see? But a whole wall right at eye level. There was a whole wall full of 3-inch wide belts that were perfect. They were exactly what he was looking for. He walked, they were at eye level, and there was 20 feet worth of row upon row upon row of belts hanging right next to his head. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. He had blinders on. He couldn't see the belts because his attention was on, I don't have a belt. 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 The whole way as he walked down the aisle, he was gone, man. He was gone. He was way down there. When I turned the corner, I saw all those belts. And I said, Rick! I had to shout. 3 times I had to shout, Rick! Finally, he heard me and he turned around and I pulled one out and I said, will this work? And he like melted right there. Oh my God, yes, that'll work. That's perfect. And he came running back. Okay, he pulls it down. We walk into the store. So we didn't have very much money. We did not have very much money. And so really we really didn't have very much money. $25 would have been a stretch to get this belt. Okay, so we go in. He asks the young lady behind the counter, how much is this belt? She says $4.99. He hears $49.99. And he still doesn't have a belt because we didn't have that much money. $49.99. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. But it was $4.99. $4.99. He heard, because he was convinced that he didn't have a belt, he heard 10 times that amount. Because his subconscious mind knew that we didn't have $50 to spend on a belt. So it was giving him exactly what he was telling it that he wanted. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. Subconscious mind says, okay, you don't have a belt. Even though you have one right there in your hand, you still don't have a belt. Okay? So she said $4.99. But I'll sell it to you for $3.99. He heard $49.99. I still don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. Until I said, really, $4? And that, because he had been practicing believing in my belief, he was able to hear me say $4. And then he was able to let go of that whole I don't have a belt thing. Okay, so he created his own suffering. This is the point. It's a fun story, and there's so much more to it. I wish I had time, but it takes quite a while to tell the entire story, as you can tell, because you really only just heard about half of it, because there's so much more to it than this. But it does speak to the point that where I place my attention, I'm placing my intention. What do you have your attention on? What do you have your attention on? Whatever you have your attention on is what you're telling your subconscious mind to bring you more of. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. As long as you are saying the equivalent of I don't have a belt, you're going to keep getting that. As long as you're saying my boyfriend's an asshole, you're going to keep getting that. Try, rather than, because this is about that whole domestic violence thing, what if you could shift your attention just a little bit? If you're not receiving what you would like, what do you have your attention on? Notice what you're noticing. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Because what you're paying attention to is what you're telling your subconscious mind you want more of. When I was using this when I was still in that relationship, I decided to stop putting my attention on all the horrible stuff I was expecting him to do and start placing it on those times that he wasn't a jerk. So I knew that there had been times in that relationship that he wasn't a jerk. So when I caught myself anticipating him being a jerk, which it takes work. The hardest part about any of this is remembering to do it in the moment. I got good at it. Even though he got worse and more violent, the more empowered I became in the relationship, the worse he got. But it was practices like this that got me to the place of being more empowered. And it was through doing these kinds of things that I was able to look at him and his behavior toward me, which was ugly, and say, thank you for giving me another opportunity to practice being the person that I want to be. Okay, so where I place my attention, I'm placing my intention. In this case, at that time, I worked at keeping my attention on the times that weren't painful. So I took the word painful out and focused on the times that were okay. The times that were okay, because there were times, these people wait until we're in love with them before they become jerks usually. Okay, an abuser knows how to do that. They wait until we have love invested in the relationship, and they do that by being loving at first. So that was where I put my attention. I know he's capable of being loving, so I'll put my attention there for now. And it worked. It worked to stop me from creating my own suffering because it's hard. It's hard on you when you spend your time and attention focusing on the anticipation of your abuser being abusive. It's hard on you. It affects you physiologically. It affects you emotionally. And that's you doing it to yourself. That's you they're not doing anything. They're not even there. They're not doing anything. Or they're just sitting there watching TV. They're not doing anything. It's what you're doing inside your own mind that's causing the stress at this time. In this case, it's you causing your own stress because of what you're doing inside your mind. So pay attention to what you're paying attention to when you're feeling stressed out, when they're not doing anything, or when they're not even there. When you find yourself feeling stressed out and you tell yourself it's because of them, it's not because of them. It's because of what you have your attention on in your own mind. So, oh, sorry, my timer's going off. So just remember this. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. I don't have a belt. And remember that he had his attention so focused on I don't have a belt, I don't have a belt, I don't have a belt, that he couldn't see a whole row of belt. He did not have his hands up here. He had his hands down here in fists because he was walking so angrily, and he didn't even see them, even though they were right next to his head. So ask yourself, when you catch yourself having your attention on something that's making you feel stressed out, how do I want to feel, and what in my life can I focus on? What can I place my attention on that will help me get to that feeling that I want to experience instead of this one that I'm creating right now because of what I have my attention on? What is something else I can put my attention on that feels, even something that just feels neutral? Even something that just feels neutral. Just get your attention off of the thing that's causing you the stress, because it's only your attention that's doing that. And put it on either something that feels wonderful, if you can find it. I couldn't find anything. I could not find anything that felt wonderful, but I could find things that felt better. And I would go from feeling shitty and stressed to feeling a bit better, to feeling a bit better, to feeling neutral. And from there, I was able to remember that time when we went to the coast. We went to the coast and we went to the little animal safari thing on the Oregon coast, and we fed the animals. That was a wonderful day. And I could get there. So what do you have that you could focus on, something that's in your memory banks that could that could serve as proof that it's not always a stressful thing to be in relationship with this person, and go there. It takes practice. It takes practice, and it takes the willingness to do the work. It takes the willingness to do. How much do you want what you say you want? Do you actually want things to feel better for you? If you do, then start doing the work, and you will start seeing results. They may not like it, and they may get worse, but you will get stronger the more you choose. The more you choose in favor of your own emotional health, the more empowered you will become. Use good judgment. Don't throw it in their face, because that'll just get you punched. But you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to tell them out loud what you're doing, because that'll get you hurt. You don't have to say it out loud, but you can still do the work. How much do you want what you say you want? Do you want it enough to take your blinders off? Do you want it enough to notice what you're paying attention to, and to shift your attention to tell your subconscious mind, bring me this, bring me this, bring me what I want. Help me to notice things that are in alignment with what I want, instead of this thing that I hate, or this thing that I don't have that I wish I had. Okay? So, I know it's a little bit long, but completely worth it. Completely worth it. If you heard even one thing in this 37 minutes that helps you to make a little bit of a shift, then my work is done. My work is done. Feel free to please leave comments, share this with your friends. If you find it useful and you would like to throw me a couple bucks, there's a link to do that right there. And stay tuned, because there's more coming. Thank you.